Justin Baldoni has dropped something big. Yes, I'm back, y'all. And Justin Baldoni has dropped summary judgment papers last week, basically saying, based off everything that we've learned, gathered, discovered, we think this case should be dismissed based off of A, B, C, D, E, F, G reasons. Now, I did say I'll come to you when something big drops, and this is kind of something big. The judge will have no choice but to rule on whatever is discussed in those documents, and we will discuss everything today, including the two videos that Mr. Friedman, I think Ryan Friedman, I forget, Jesse Baldoni's lawyers also dropped last week. The first video is Justin Baldoni's character working in the hospital because he's a neurosurgeon, he is a doctor, and then Blake Lively's character showing up and to say, "Oh, I love you too." Blake Lively finds Justin Baldoni in the hospital hallway, goes up to Justin Baldoni and kisses him. You can see Justin Baldoni having like a puzzled face as Blake Lively walks away. You can tell that wasn't really part of the scene because that's why they dropped that video to show, hey, Blake Lively also improvises. It's quite clear that there is a culture of improvisation on set. Okay. However, no matter what movie, no matter what TV show, no matter what is being explored, discussed, portrayed, there still should be boundaries and lines set. Okay. And so when we have Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in this movie where lines are blurred, we're talking about certain types of really serious matters. There should be discussion about this is what I can do, this is what I can do, this is what I can consent to. Obviously, Justin Baldoni did not consent to Blake Lively kissing Justin Baldoni. In that particular scene, the kiss is not in the book. This kiss in this scene is also not in the script or even discussed beforehand. So Blake Lively thought this kiss would add some type of value to the scene. With that being said, they're basically showing that Justin Baldoni improvised, Blake Lively also improvised. However, I do want to say, which we'll get into the summary judgment arguments, part of the theme of the summary judgment documents that was dropped by Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyers, is that when you enter a set, when you go on a set, when you work on a set that kind of plays with intimate scenes and adult themes, you kind of take on whatever happens on set, which I strongly disagree with, okay? No matter what happens on set, like I said, there should still be boundaries, there should still be discussion, open communication, and consent. I want to contrast this with Die My Love, which is a movie with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. It just dropped. I highly recommend. Y'all should go see it. It really discusses, okay, and it really shows a really good example of how one treats intimate scenes in movies and TV shows. Now, I personally love Jennifer. I was gonna say Jennifer Love Hewitt. I like her too, but I love Jennifer Lawrence. She did an interview with a reporter and Robert Pattinson was there. And they talked about how, because if you watched I'm a Love, the scenes in that movie were incredibly raw, intimate, really intimate. Like Jennifer was pretty much naked. Not pretty much. She was naked for I would say like a quarter of the movie. And she is trying to show us her emotions through her body and her mind and the way she speaks. And it's a lot of movement going on. Throughout these scenes, she never used an intimacy coordinator. And she talked about that. She also talked about the intimate scene that she had with Robert Pattinson. She said the reason why she didn't want to use an intimacy coordinator was because that she felt comfortable on set. She really didn't need one. There was conversation that can be had. She was also a producer in this movie as well. So she had some type of control aspect as well through the movie. can quite tell, but she did say, I did watch her another interview because I went down a rabbit hole, is that when you are a producer on a movie set, your job pretty much like ends when you start entering the movie set. Like, your producer duties kind of start before they start filming. That's what, according to Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know. So Jennifer Lawrence enters on set, and she didn't use any intimacy coordinator at all throughout her intimacy scenes and like her raw scenes with Robert Pattinson. And when she did have that crazy intimacy scene in the beginning of the movie where she's naked and they're going at it with each other, they're making love with Robert Pattinson, after the scene, Robert Pattinson would be like, great scene, anyways, I'm gonna go call my wife. Like, Robert Pattinson treated the scene like a job, like, which is how you're supposed to treat it. And Jennifer Lawrence would say in the interviews that Robert Pattinson is like amazing because he's a good guy, like, he's generally a good guy, but even during this movie, he's not one of those guys who goes, oh, I want to have intimate whatever with you, right? Because there are some actors who go, oh, like, why don't you want to touch me and feel me and have intimate things with me. And Robert Pattinson is not like that. Like, he treats it like a job. Like, once it's done, he go calls his wife. All Robert Pattinson wants to do once they're not filming is talk about his wife and kids, So for Jennifer Lawrence, like, it was really comfortable. It was really easy for her to be whoever she needed to be in the role and be present with Robert Pattinson because Robert Pattinson treated it like he's an actor. That's his job. That's what he's here to do. And there was no creepiness. There was no lines blurred. There was no craziness. It was really, she said to say, a lot of it was really orchestrated. Like, everybody knew what was going to happen while it was happening. Like, it was, so that is a clear example of how things could work, right? Of how it should work on a set. There's open communication. Everybody treats it as professional, and one doesn't need an intimacy coordinator in each and every movie set. Like, I remember there was a movie that got Oscar buzz, and it was about like this hooker who got engaged by this like Russian oligarch kid. I think you guys might know what I'm talking about. And she did a lot of like crazy intimacy scenes too. And throughout that entire movie, she never had an intimacy coordinator because she felt really comfortable on set. Like, everybody knew the rules, everybody knew what to do, everybody hit each mark. Like, there was no confusion, there was no mistake. Like, everybody knew what they were doing. So it ends with us. It seems like lines were blurred, and I think a large part of that is because Blake Lively thought that she had a lot of the control, like she's a star and she needs a while it's a collaboration, right? Like, Blake Lively refused to take off her control leadership hat, right? Like, she forgets that she's an actor in this movie. Like, you're not the director, you're not the producer, you're not the assistant director. You're here to act and follow instructions, right? And Blake Lively, I think, and that's like a large part of it as well, she just took it upon herself to just do whatever. However, some blame is also on Justin Baldoni, because if I was Justin Baldoni, I would have told Blake Lively, hey, this is not a blurred line to interpret whatever you want, do whatever you want on set type of movie. You're going to do what's on the script. That is what is expected of you. I'm so sorry, but that's what we're looking for as an actor. But I think because of those conversations weren't clearly done properly, or those expectations on lines weren't clearly set in the beginning, things just went wild. Instead of coloring within the lines, Blake Lively is coloring outside of lines. She's creating her own coloring book, basically. And I think that has a big part of it as well. The second video that was dropped by Justin Baldoni last week was also a video I didn't watch, honestly. It was basically Justin Baldoni making light of like harassment complaints and the sexy comment, I believe. Excuse me. So those were two videos that was dropped. Now let's get into the summary judgment. I do disagree. Like I said, if harassment is happening, it's okay, because we're talking about serious, intimate scenes and themes, adult themes in a movie or TV show, there are lines, there are boundaries, there needs to be communication. So one cannot just say, oh, it is what it is because that's what she signed up for. No. So there's a little bit of that in there in the summary judgment document. So I do want to tell everybody that I disagree with that. Okay. So the first is lively as harassment and allegations meet the test. That's the thing too. Like, yes, I do agree that Blake Lively was uncomfortable on set. She didn't raise the uncomfortability on in the moment. She raised it afterwards, which happens. But does these incidents rise to the as harassment test in California? The bar in California is very high. I've never seen such thing. Like it's just crazy high. And even if one thing happened, it doesn't mean it's severe. It doesn't mean it's pervasive. It doesn't mean, it meets the test. So let's talk about that. So when we're talking about this, the litany of minor grievances Lively cobbles together falls far short of the requisite level of being severe or pervasive enough to create an objectively hostile or abusive work environment. I do agree, like, when these incidents were raised, right? Right, they were raised, right? And even just Baldoni's lawyers even going to further and say it wasn't even raised with the right people. It was raised with just Baldoni, but it wasn't raised with production, like the company of production. They talk about that in the summary judgment documents as well. When it's raised, the workplace doesn't get worse over time. In fact, Blake Lively takes it upon herself to control every aspect of what happens on set and offset. The isolated acts, unless very serious, do not meet the threshold of severity or pervasiveness. The sporadic use of abusive language, gender-related jokes, and occasional teasing are not actionable harassment under federal or California law. And separating low-level objections from legally cognizable wrongs, courts consider the totality of the circumstances. The frequency of the discriminatory conduct is severity, whether it is physically threatening or humiliating, or a mere offensive utterance, and whether it unreasonably interferes with an employee's work performance. So it talks about the severity. What is severe? No matter if it's humiliating or threatening or it was uncomfortable, was the sexual harassment incident severe? It is not enough for Lively to say that she personally found something Baldoni and Heath did objectionable. Both an objection and a subjective standard must be met. Again, meet the test. Lively's claims premise on a few purportedly offensive utterances and on-set mishaps do not satisfy these standards, they say. That Baldoni, in directing particular scenes twice, used the adjective sexy to refer to how female actors appeared in their assigned wardrobe is hardly surprising, given the sexually charged nature of the scenes in the film. I strongly disagree with that, right? Even if a film is talking about sexually charged scenes, it's how you use the word sexy that matters. One cannot say sexy, like for instance, like the Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence that I told you, right? If they just finished that really sexual scene that they did in the beginning of Die My Love, and Robert Pattinson goes to Jennifer Lawrence and goes, "You were really sexy in that scene," like that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And I disagree with the lawyer saying sexy is part of working on a sexually charged movie. Trying to disagree with that. The banality of such conduct and its general low-level offensiveness is underscored by Lively's during her work on the film. Now, they continue. Video footage confirms that Baldoni's use of the word sexy in reference to Lively's wardrobe was entirely unremarkable. Lively was not scantily clad, but dressed in an oversized fleece one size. Nor was this anything that might remotely approach flirtation. Rather, both she and Baldoni were working at the time, surrounded by actors and crew, which was true. That was the second video that Baldoni dropped, right? Baldoni's expression was neutral and not ogling or suggestive. On top of that, Baldoni apologized if his remark was inappropriate, and Lively responded by saying, "All good." I do think a part of it too, because I do believe that Blake Lively felt uncomfortable. I do think a big part of it too, that I think that Blake Lively thought that Justin Baldoni liked her, like in a romantic way. He doesn't really seem like that type of guy, but there are a lot of like good looking dudes where when you talk to them, because of the rapport you have with them and how charismatic they are, there's a part of you that believes that even though they have a girlfriend and wife, like they have feelings for you too. Which is horrible to say, but even in routine office settings, such conduct is not actionable. Okay. And also not appropriate, in my opinion. For example, the Second Circuit held a high school teacher's claim. So this is like the seriousness of how these courts usually deal with things. Like, look at how serious these are. So in a different case, teacher claims that her male supervisor occasionally commented on her physical appearance and participated in a bet with 3 other male employees as to when he would be able to engage with her sexually in a sexually explicit conversation. Even that case was seen insufficient. And look at how high that is. Like, oh, they're talking about how they want to have sex with you. The court says that's not sexual harassment. Another case where a senior employee told plaintiff that her clothes were sexy and that her hair was beautiful, sometimes blew kisses at the plaintiff as he did to all his employees. One sent plaintiff an inappropriate email and made sexual jokes were insufficient. Even with that wasn't sexual harassment. Right? Another one, a file clerk claims that her supervisor complimented her hair, her eyes, that she looked good in tight pants, and referred to her as a bitch twice were insufficient. Crazy cases. In Ontario, by the way, those would be sexual harassment. I just want everybody to know. I'm not a lawyer, but that would be like our bar, because I live in Canada. The bar here in Ontario is quite lower. I think the amount of damages ranges depending on the circumstances in the case and how it affected the appellant. But here in Ontario, it's lower. Like, the bar is so high over there. So there's that. So is it severe? Is it pervasive? Pervasive, is it happening many times? Is it happening by a lot of people? Is it, integrating with so many parts of the organization? Is it widespread? Is it part of a system? Is it, that's severe and pervasive. They're saying it's not, which I agree with them as well. It's not severe or pervasive. The second component of as harassment, Lively was not targeted on the basis of her gender, because you need to say that the harassment incidents were targeted on the basis of gender. To sustain a sexual harassment claim, Lively must show that the offending conduct was motivated by her gender, that she was treated a certain way because she was a woman. Okay? The critical issue is whether members of one sex are exposed to disadvantaged terms or conditions of employment to which members of the other sex are not exposed. Lively cannot show that. I agree. Okay? Because we have to remember, we spent the entire summer, not me specifically, but we've watched Lively and Justin Baldoni go through the entire summer, discovering documents, going through discovery, finding evidence. Nothing conclusive was found by Justin Baldoni against Blake Lively when it came to the S harassment. And maybe Blake Lively could still be holding it until trial, right? But they went through the entire summer gathering documents, doing all of this. And then that's why Justin Baldoni is coming back now to say, I am absolutely saying this is not S harassment now. They could have done this a long time ago, but I think they want the entire public to see the type of lawsuit this is, the type of people Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are, just so they can come with this summary judgment. Because honestly, this argument could have been made 5 months ago, 6 months ago, right? So the basis of many of her claims has nothing to do with her sex. For instance, Lively contends that there was too much hugging on the set. She does not claim, let alone prove that the hugging was gender specific. There's been video to show that Joseph Baldoni was hugging everybody, all the men, everybody on set. Baldoni spoke with Lively about topics like sexuality, consent, and pornography, not motivated by her gender, but because she was working on a movie that explored those themes. Right? So I agree with that as well. Strong arguments. Nor do two alleged instances involving Heath reflect any gender motivation or animus. Lively was shown a fragment of a video depicting family members and a newborn child, not because she was a woman, but because she had acted in an important birth-related scene. They're tying it back to the movie. But again, there is a line to be that needs to be drawn when it comes to the appropriateness, right, of all of these things. So we move on now to the fact that Jessica Baldoni is now meeting Blake Lively where she is and saying that Blake Lively, cool, you didn't sign the contract, excellent, you are an independent contractor then. Let's act like you are. Okay. So Lively cannot prove any actionable retaliation. Lively did not experience any actionable adverse. Before we go into the contract, this is also an interesting component as well. Jessica Baldoni says as well, if Jessica Baldoni did retaliate against Blake Lively, like the so-called period of retaliation happened after set, like after they were done filming. So how could it be retaliation? Especially when there's no through line. You can't connect. There's no causation. You can't connect Jessica Baldoni submitting good articles about himself, preventing news stories about himself from coming out, to what happened on set. But it could be connected to what Blake Lively did, right? Like a lot of what Justin Baldoni did was in defense to what Blake Lively did, which was spread rumors, put out stories, unfollow him, force all the cast to unfollow him, all of these things, right? And then Justin Baldoni, acted in kind. And that's basically what they said here. Lively did not suffer any employment-related adverse action. No aspect of Lively's employment changed for the worse after she presented her list of presented protections. She was not demoted, sidelined, or paid less. To the contrary, her power in the workplace and control over the production both expanded exponentially and dramatically, which I agree with as well. It's not like her workplace, she was treated differently after she raised the concerns. No, everything she wanted, she got. Everything she expressed, she got. The only proven publicity efforts were reasonably defensive measures, which is what I discussed. Okay, now let's go into the contract. So the smear campaign will be a bit different. They're basically saying there is no temporal proximity between any claimed protected activity and any alleged adverse action. Lively was an independent contractor, not an employee. Now, this is hella smart. However, they could have made this argument 6 months ago, like I said. In its plain terms, it does not protect independent contractors. So basically the California Labor Code. Okay. So they're basically going on to say, Lively, a world-famous actor who ran her own business empire and relied on lawyers to negotiate a detailed contract on behalf of a specialized LLC for her work, plainly wasn't a standard employee. Lively was not beholden to any employer. She controlled the terms and conditions of the work, which she did, and she bragged about throughout the press tour that she did. Okay? She moved the location of the film from Boston to New Jersey, led meetings at her own personal residence, and demanded numerous terms and conditions without which she refused to go forward. If harassment law is designed to address a power differential, her star power gave her the upper hand. She came to exercise such immense control. Determining whether an individual qualifies as an employee versus an independent contractor, there is a series of factors. Okay. So for one to be considered an independent contractor versus an employee, Blake Lively has to have the right to control the manner and means by which the product is accomplished. So no, Lively exercised control at every turn. So did any of the defendant have the right? So basically, okay. So I think I read this wrong. Common law factors strongly weigh against treating Lively as an employee, because these are the factors that treat you as an employee. Okay, not an independent contractor. So did any defendant, so did Justin Baldoni have the right to control the manner and means by which his product was published and accomplished? No. Like, Justin Baldoni did not edit the movie. He did not publish at the time that he wanted to. Lively exercised control at every turn. She reserved the right to perform in any intimate scene to which she did not consent. She determined the filming location and schedule, took over significant aspects of the script and editing process. Was a high level of skill required for Lively's work? Yes. However, I feel like I can do that role. Lively was an A-list actor. She toots many skills and accomplishments. In her letter to the PGA, she bargained for a $1.75 million guaranteed payment, as well as additional bonuses at the box office and box office bonus. Who was the source of the instrumentalities and tools? Lively herself was the primary instrumentality of the acting work she performed. So basically the tools. What tools did she use to perform the work? Lively performed a lot of the work using her own tools. While Wayfair and the production arranged for the set and paid for ancillary materials associated with the production, Lively made decisions and exercised creative control. She claimed credit for, and among other things, blah, 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 which they redacted. There's something that they redacted. Who chose the location of the work? Lively. What was the duration of the relationship between the parties, and could any defendant assign additional projects to Lively? No. The relationship was limited to the duration of the single project of the film. What method of payment was used? Lively's loan-out entity was paid per minimum guaranteed payment in 6 installments. What was Lively's role in hiring and paying assistants? It was extensive. Lively claimed she personally picked the assistant. Under the unexpected ALA, Lively would also had the right to select her personal assistants, nannies, security. Were defendants in business, and was a work part of their regular business? Yes. Defendants were in the business of producing films, right? Justin Baldoni's company. Did Lively receive employment benefits? No. That's a big one too. As an independent contractor, you don't get your own health benefits, right? How was Lively's treated for tax purposes? Not like a standard W-2A employee, as required by New Jersey law for all films shot in the state. Those are the factors that kind of determine if you are an employee or contractor, independent contractor. So I think the summary judgment is quite good. It's quite strong. I don't see the judge kind of going not going in Justin Baldoni's favor. According to the summary judgment, he is right. However, this judge that's on this case is one of those judges who are like, I like you and you. I like everybody. Like, he doesn't really pick a side. He wants like a fair case where Blake Lively gets her, Justin Baldoni gets her. Like, everybody gets what they want at the end of the day. Everybody's a little bit happy. And I don't like those type of judges, you know? But I get it. I do. I think it's good, though, that everybody gets what they want in regards to some cases. But if you're claiming that this happened, the judge is like, yeah, this happened, but like, maybe this didn't happen because I want her to win. Like, that's what this judge is kind of giving. But keep in mind, I haven't read all of the documents. I haven't read all of the motions and the other judgments going on in the cases. So, but based off of what other lawyers have said, that's basically what's going on. Lively's contract claims. They also talk about some other things in here as well. But that's all I really wanted to talk about, because those were like the big, strong, arguments here. Excuse me. Oh my God. I ate so many Oreos. I was so craving a little sweet. Oh my God. Those Oreos, chef's kiss, hit the spot. So even if the ALA CRA were enforceable against the entity defendants, Lively's breach claims would fail as a matter of law. The entity defendants did not engage in conduct rising to a breach. Both of Lively's breach claims turn on the contention that IEWM, through its agents, harassed Lively and then retaliated against her for raising concerns. As discussed above, Lively does not come close to establishing a genuine issue of fact as to any such claim. An entity defendant's alleged conduct cannot constitute a breach because Lively failed to provide notice and an opportunity to cure. That's also a good component as well. Like, according to Justice Baldoni, Lively's breaches claims to also fail because she failed to provide 30 days notice and an opportunity to cure. So basically have the other side to respond, as a cure means, as required by ALA's company's breach provision, which also governs the incorporated CRA. That provision states that no act or omission of company hereunder shall constitute an event of default or breach of this agreement unless Lively shall notify the company in writing 30 days before, setting forth such alleged breaches or default and company so they can cure. Okay. Lively never provided the requisite notice and opportunity to cure before asserting her breach of contract. To be sure, Lively's attorney sent a case and desist letter on December 20th, 2024, claiming that Wayfair and others breached the CRA. But that letter was not sent to IEWM as required by the contract and did not mention any alleged breach of the ALA. In any case, Lively filed her breach claims on December 31st, 2024, only 11 days after sending the case and desist letter. So they're basically saying, you sent it to Justice Baldoni, but you sent it to Wayfair, but you didn't send it to IEWM, which is a production company. Basically not notifying them of what happened and then giving them a chance to cure. That's what's going on in the summary judgment. I'm interested to see how Blake Lively kind of responds. I'll try to anyway, create a video on that as well. My response on that. Again, this is not just an S harassment case. As you can see, I'm kind of like on the fence, playing both sides. But honestly, it does seem like I'm leaning towards Justice Baldoni, only because we spent all these months going through discovery, finding the evidence to show Blake Lively has been as harassed and others as harassed, but nothing has been shown yet. I know there's still time. I know maybe Blake Lively is probably waiting to go to trial, and she'll probably, do it then. I'm seeing the strength in Justice Baldoni's case so far. I am. I really am. And what their story of the case makes sense to me. I'm not saying that Blake Lively wasn't as harassed, but I am saying Justice Baldoni's arguments are quite strong, and I agree with them. I also want to say as well that this case, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds haven't really moved like this is a S harassment case. Like, they moved like there's something else going on that they're not telling us. Like, they're doing this because of something else. That's kind of like the nefarious thing going on. It doesn't really scream as harassment case. It screams or covering up something, or I don't know. It screams something else. It doesn't scream. I think it screams, oh, you hurt my feelings, or you hurt my business, or oh, you hurt my reputation. I don't know what it is, but like, it doesn't scream as harassment. I don't know. I do think as well, I would like to hear what Blake Lively have to say about this. And we could all be wrong. Like, the trial could come and we could all be wrong. And she'll probably go on that stand and give an moving, emotional testimony to show that Justice Baldoni did harass her. So we'll see. I'm not saying again that Blake Lively wasn't as harassed, but this case has not been moving like a usual harassment case. That's why I'm like, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to follow. I know I haven't been consistent on here, but I'm trying to. It's hard balancing other social media apps. I don't know how y'all do it. If you guys are content creators, I don't know how y'all do it. Ciao, bella. Bye, guys.